Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. I am your host, Troy. It is not someone else, even though the voice is much more dark and sultry. It's one of those benefits of having a head cold, I guess. Now, if you hear coughing a lot in this episode, I think I've been able to either deflect it enough or edit it out so you don't hear me hacking and coughing. But that's the price you pay. I decided to go out and mow the section of the hill. And you guys will say, oh, Troy mows the hill. Yeah, it's 100 acres of all hill, so everything's a hill to mow. But went out and mowed the day that the last bit of pollen was really kicking, and I think that got into my brain, actually, and that's what I'm dealing with right now. So while the outside of me looks normal, the inside of me is like the xenomorph from the movie Alien. So not to be too crude and disgusting there, but that's what we're dealing with. So before I get into our interview, I do want to shout out that the Lord in His providence gave me a couple to interview that, fortunately, I really didn't have to talk much because they can just take the conversation and run with it, which I'm so glad they did, because that kept my voice from being stressed too much and hacking and coughing all through. So there's a couple episodes that I've recorded where I'm going to sound this way. So like I said, it's a shame I can't have this voice all the time. Oh, here we go. Cough number one edited out there. Okay. So yeah, obviously I'd love to have this deep sultry voice all the time. But that's not going to happen. But I wanted to do a couple updates and announcements before we get into our interview. First announcement, I told you guys I keep you updated. It looks like I've got 2 of my 3 sows that have settled. I'll know for certain here in the next couple days. But Merida, our old matriarch, she has not settled. In fact, Squealy Dan's been knocking her around a little bit more here. So I think she's done. She's definitely up in age, and she's just done. She's hateful and cranky, and still goes into good heat, still stand, but he just I don't think it's him because he's able to deliver the goods elsewhere. But I think she's just that ship has sailed. So we'll see what that means. In my mind, that means, yes, we got to get her off the farm. It's time to retire her. But in my heart, it'll probably be that she'll stand here until she falls over dead one day. Such is life, right? What else is going on? Well, man, I'm really excited about the lineup. As many of you guys know, I do these podcasts in batches, these interviews in batches. So I was getting a little tight there. In fact, the episode you're hearing today was just recorded last week, which is really, really odd for me. Normally, you're months out. But I've got some really good batches lined up, some that are already in the can, some that are scheduled, and it's going to be pretty eclectic. So I love the idea, or I love the fact that because of some simple technological improvements here on the farm, and able to ramp this up and be able to not only continue to present new farms and farms that you're not familiar with that are raising pigs, but also get opportunity to drill down in topics. We've got just 10 minutes ago, just finished a great conversation with the American Berkshire Association Executive Director. So that'll be an episode coming up real soon. And great stuff there. In fact, I could have talked another hour to Corey on that. But really excited with what we've got lined up, and I want to continue to keep this momentum going. So please continue to give me feedback either through the Facebook group or send me an email, troy@redtoolhouse.com, and give me some suggestions there on what else we need to do. But really excited about this. I want to keep this momentum going. And along the lines of momentum, I want to be, shameless plug here, the digital beggar. Consider supporting us on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you can support the Patreon account that just keeps this stuff rolling. Not only does it keep doing what we're doing, but it allows me to look at other investments of things, whether it's upgrading equipment, whether it's obviously more file storage so we can keep things out there. I'd love to keep all these podcast episodes out free for everyone to look at. There's There's some situations where I may have to start retiring the older episodes or put them behind a paywall to justify costs, but I'd rather keep from doing that. I would love to have Patreon supporters kind of keep that pump prime so I can cover the cost of those things. But as we've always said, when we get to 40 supporters, there's some pretty neat stuff that I'm ready to turn on and that requires monthly expenses that would be justified then when we get to that support level. So if you haven't supported and you've been an ardent listener, please consider even a simple $5 gift there. For those of you who are Patreon supporters, I know usually this is the best way to communicate with you, even through the Patreon app. I think I get better response through the podcast. But those of you that are in the Patreon loop, we will be doing a live Q&A or a live discussion coming up soon. So I really need to get feedback from you all when the best time that would be. I mean, I would assume for most of our people, because we're all over all over the United States. So you got time zones, you got day jobs to worry about. So probably be a late evening Eastern time, so it'll accommodate our West Coast people. But to do a Q&A and maybe even have some specific guests, people that have been on, or it may just be an opportunity to just talk about, hey, what we're struggling with, what we're dealing with. Obviously, if there's any marketing questions, we can take those on as well. So that'll be coming up soon for our Patreon supporters. So those of you that aren't supporters, maybe this is the right carrot to dangle to get you on board there. What else we have going on? Oh my goodness. Well, I would say there's a lot going on here at the farm, but it's not necessarily related to pigs, but I am even rethinking farrowing locations again, because we will be having a January farrowing, it looks like, which I've done before. And with some artificial heat and creep areas, it tends to be okay. But I'm just exploring some other options. My two sows, the first year they farrowed together, no problem. The second year, it was like oil and water. And one of them did a Wile E. Coyote through the side of the barn to get out of there. Those of you who've been following the channel know that we documented that. So maybe utilizing our greenhouse, may reinforce it to down on the flat level to have the one of the sows utilize the greenhouse to hang out and farrow there. So we'll see. That'll be I've got a couple months to figure that out. All right, so without any further ramblings from me, let's get into our discussion today. And today we're talking with Whoopsy Daisy Farm, which I absolutely love that name. And we get in the etymology of that farm name near the end, so make sure you stick around for that. But we're talking to Kyle and Rachel Hester. And what's really cool is I met them just here recently at the HOA, the Homesteaders of America conference in Virginia. And so it was neat to get to know people that have listened to the podcast for a while or followed our YouTube channel for a while, and actually get to put some faces with people that have reached out digitally. So it was a great conversation, as I mentioned earlier. It's a good dynamic pair. That Kyle and Rachel are a good tag team duo, and so they keep the conversation lively and keep it moving. And like I said, I didn't have to croak through it nearly as much as I thought I would. So let's jump in, and I'll introduce you all to Kyle and Rachel. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. Today, we are not going very far from Red Tulas. We're just going west a little bit. We're going into central Kentucky, and we're talking with Whoopsy Daisy Farm, and that's Kyle and Rachel Hester. Welcome, y'all.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
All right. Well, it's good to have couples on this. You know, don't get that opportunity very often. So I'm glad both of you are taking the time to sit down and talk with me. I think it's going to add just a nice additional perspective to what you've got going on the farm, and of course, you know, how you guys balance that with all farm job and those responsibilities and how that works. So I'm glad you both are here and can provide that input.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, us too. We're very glad to get to do this together.
Yes, it gives us an opportunity to sit down together.
Yeah, there you go.
Because that takes proactive effort on a homestead sometimes.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about your farm and kind of the core of where you are. And this may get people kind of scratching their heads and saying, okay, why are they on the Pastured Pig podcast? But we'll obviously we'll migrate into that in the conversation. But give me that 40,000 foot elevation view of your farm and kind of where you hang out. And then even kind of talk about how they got you over to Homesteaders of America. We were actually able to see each other face to face there.
Yeah.
Okay, so the overview of our place is we have 8.5 acres, and the best way I can describe it is our land looks like a slice of pizza.
Yep.
A highway, country highway is the crust, and so we have a curve at the front of our land. That's where the house is, and the pasture and stuff falls back behind into trees, so it just tapers back into a triangle. So we own everything that's cleared out in pasture, and then the trees are kind of the border around us.
Mhm.
We bought it 5 years ago as a foreclosure, and
It was our first home purchase.
first home purchase, which there's a lot of blessings and a lot of negatives to doing a first home buy with a foreclosure property, both with the house and with the land. So we're still working on the house to a lot of degrees, and at the same time we're also really having to work on land rehabilitation, because prior to us, there were on this 8.5 acres, there's our home, but the previous folks had put 2 mobile homes on the 8.5 acres. So there still is to a lot of places debris fields all over our place where it was just kind of ransacked, if you will. So we are trying to use
well, before that it was hayfields.
Before that was
hayfields. When we moved here, we got a soil sample and we had absolutely no topsoil whatsoever. So in your homestead, you're supposed to have the garden, and we're just now 5 years later able to grow a decent tomato, just because our topsoil just wasn't there. So
we kind of followed the homestead model of, we got poultry. That was year 1. And then 2020 rolled around, and we got our first 2 sheep, and we thought, okay, we'll just try sheep. And that morphed into, in the next 2 years, we now have
close to 30
right now, counting the lambs.
Because there's chicken math and there's sheep math.
So our purpose with all the sheep was to we milk them, so we really wanted the sheep dairy, and then also have the meat and the wool off of them. And what we didn't realize was the outcry for the sheep byproducts of the yarn and the fiber products that Rachel's able to make, or
the milk. I mean, because I didn't know sheep milk soap was going to be such a huge hit. But the thing with sheep is that they're not as sensitive as goats to parasites, but they're pretty close to goats as far as sensitive to parasites, which when you have completely abused land, the parasite loads are pretty steep. So
we got to 2021 with some poultry and sheep and trying to figure out what in the world we were doing. And of course, that was all during the middle of the isolation crisis, and so we found out about Homesteaders of America, and Rachel said, we really should go to this.
We have to go.
We really should go to this. And it was, of course, that was last year. That was the 2021 year, and it was just amazing. That was the people waiting for 5 hours to get into the event year. Just to be able to meet so many folks that are doing, to some degree, the similar stuff to what we are doing. We didn't feel like we were doing it alone. We didn't feel like we were crazy.
Or if we were crazy, we were at least crazy with pals, not just by ourselves.
Right.
So we came away very encouraged by the all the classes we went to at HOA, and one of those classes actually was which we were milking the sheep. We thought, okay, we really were not looking to animals. And quite frankly, I mean, I love cows. I grew up around them on my grandpa's farm, but we're still going. We don't have any fencing on the property. We use all electronet. That's a big animal. And we came away from their talk and thinking, well, a few years down the road, this might be a good idea to get into a cow.
Yeah, a month later, we had a Jersey in my backyard. So, yeah.
So a month after last year's HOA, we had a milk cow, and so we were like, okay, we got the sheep, we got the poultry, we got the milk cow. now we're good. We're definitely capped off. And having the milk cow and posting pictures of the milk cow online led to an outpouring of folks wanting to get into a herd share, which we did not see coming.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming
at all. And so it was through that herd share that we wound up with our pigs.
Yeah. So there was a friend of mine, she wanted to be part of our herd share. And so, we had her come over and explain how it works and all that. And she said, well, I'm a great one for bartering. And I said, yeah, we can definitely barter. And, what do you got that I might want? And she said, well, I've got this sow and a gilt. I'll trade you them for milk. And I was like, no, we're not doing pigs, because my mom's grandpa raised hogs, and I don't know what she did to the pigs or what great grandpa threatened to do to her with the pigs, but she was traumatized by those Jurassic Park hogs.
Right.
And so I just always grew up hearing about these razor-toothed man-eating hogs that tried to murder my mother. And I was just like, okay, we're not doing pigs. And I also said, we're not doing any animals that I can't milk. So we're not doing pigs. And my friend was just like, no, you need pigs. I was like, I don't need pigs. I really do not need pigs. Like, they're smelly, they're stinky, they're all the stereotypes against pigs. And so she won me over by saying, well, since I've added pigs to my homestead, I don't have any parasite issues with my goats or sheep. And I was like, that cannot be true. And she's like, no, it's true. Like, because the pigs, I have the pigs following the sheep and goats, and the pigs will go eat the sheep poop right away. And that acts as a parasite barrier.
Yeah. Wow.
And we had just lost one of our first sheep to parasites.
Yeah, like literally the week before. So it was perfect timing for her to strike while the iron was hot.
It was a good sale. Very good sale approach. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, well, we'll go over and we'll look at your pigs. And so we went to her property, and she's standing out in this pasture, and she starts calling, these pigs by their names, and they run up to her and they flop down and she belly scratches them. And I think one ate out of her hand, which I wouldn't recommend, but she did it. And we left and we're like, shoot, we got to get those pigs.
and they were decent size. I mean, they're American Guinea Hog and Cooney Coon crosses.
Right.
So this was a very manageable size for us. This wasn't the 2-ton hog that, we had in our nightmares. This was something that was a couple 100 pounds to, the smallest one is more like maybe 100 right now, where she's still growing.
Yeah.
And just so darn cute looking, right? So
yes,
oh, they were adorable. I'm like, what? Pigs are cute? When did that happen?
I mean, they called her Tiny Pig because they couldn't think of a name for her. We're like, we have to come up with a different name for that pig. And a year later, she's still called Tiny. We've got Charlotte and Tiny Pigs. So how's that for quintessential? So literally, we went for, and it was actually a kind of an uphill battle, because I was determined we weren't going to get pigs even.
Yeah, you were a harder sell than I was.
I was the harder sell, because I just said we're not equipped. We know nothing, absolutely nothing about them. And
she's like, it doesn't matter. It's okay. Like you really can't kill a pig unless you're trying hard to. And
then Rachel finally won me over with, look, let's just try this. And if it doesn't work out, we can eat both of them. We got bacon in the freezer. And my love for bacon won out. And so I said, okay, this is kind of a win-win. If we like them, we like them. If not, I'm full. So
right. And then it was hilarious, because we went to church the next weekend, and we told our Sunday school group, oh, please pray for us young fools. We're getting pigs. And we had folks pulling us, like in the parking lot after church service, people were pulling up in their cars congratulating us over our pig acquisition. Right. No one did that over the cow or the sheep or the chickens, but everyone was like, we can't wait till you get pigs. And I was like, well, okay. I did not know this was going to be such a popular thing. So
in the South, pork is king. That's just the bottom line. Yeah. That's apparently our experience.
Exactly. So. Yep. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So what a great evolution of farm livestock there.
Oh, and I did find out you can milk pigs.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah.
But we're not going to.
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't want to get into movie quotes, but yeah, I keep thinking of that one.
Yeah.
You can milk a cat. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
But my
Exactly.
sister's done that too. So,
Yeah, but
never say never around me and my family.
Yeah, but we're not doing that.
Yeah. Cool. So, you said something there that I want to come back on and see if it's expandable. So the person that convinced you to take her pigs, she was talking about the parasite load issue there. So I know a lot of us listening probably know that sheep and goats are more fragile when it comes to that type of situation, and that rotation and pasture management and even climate play into that quite a bit. So is this something I've not heard that before, I got to say. So is this something that is common knowledge, or is this kind of uncommon knowledge?
I don't think so. I mean, whenever I'm on the homesteading Facebook boards and they're like, what do we do about these sheep parasites? And I say, add a little lard breed pig to follow, your flock. Everyone's like, where has this long kept secret been? And I don't know, but I mean, when we put our pigs in to follow the sheep, I mean, the first thing they do is they go find the sheep poop and they start eating it. So,
or they graze.
Well, I mean, they'll
sheep.
graze a little bit, but they're looking for the poop first.
Right.
So no, it's not common knowledge. I don't think so. Or if it is, it's not in the circles we run in. So
Yeah.
I would like for it to be more well known, but because it's a pretty cool little trick. You've got your mutton and bacon in the freezer. It's not a kosher freezer, but we're American. We don't care.
Yeah. But I mean, is there all this stuff to back it up? We're just trying to figure out, how this works. We're a year into it.
Because I mean, we try to be as chemical free as possible. I mean, we're not religious about we're never going to use a chemical on our farm, but for the most part, we try to not do routine wormings or routine medications and whatnot, just because it does affect the quality of your milk or your meat or your longevity of your flock. But the dairy breed sheep that we have just really struggle in the parasite seasons in Kentucky. So I mean, we're like, any little thing that we can do to help, we just throw at them because it's just a battle every year.
They need it.
So
and so we're finding that they come in, they start cleaning up the sheep poop. They also will graze stuff that the sheep didn't graze.
Yeah.
And again, not that hugely pig familiar, but this breed cross definitely likes to graze.
Yeah.
So they'll come in, they'll start grazing, and then what is a really big benefit for us with our current land setup where we're trying to rehabilitate and that kind of stuff is they start rooting like a rototiller. But
once they get bored, like that's
right,
been the interest.
Right.
Like, once we get to a point where we don't want the pastures rototilled so regularly, like if we move them within a few days, they won't start rooting.
Correct.
But if we leave them there for about a week, that's when they start turning stuff over. So that's been kind of interesting to track too, where, if you want someone to if you want a pig to plow your field, this cross will work. But if you don't want them turning everything up, you just move them faster, like Joel Salatin actually says we should. So,
but in our case, we really like them rooting stuff up because that's aerating, that's causing a natural disturbance that is good for the soil where it hasn't had it, and who knows how.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the delay? How far behind are you with the pigs with following the sheep? Is it immediately when you move the sheep over, the pigs come right back in? Okay.
Yeah, so we basically make a huge triangle with the electronet and then just separate the middle of it with the panel. So the sheep are on one side and the pigs are on the other. Okay. So then we just when we make a new paddock, the sheep go into the new paddock and the pigs follow directly behind them into where they were just at. Because it seems like the pigs want the fresher manure, not the older manure.
Well, who wouldn't? I mean, that would be my choice as well. So
yeah.
If I'm gonna have it, I'd rather it be fresh.
Right.
We kind of try to do both from the benefits of what they're doing and for practicality, because
it's just easier.
We have both their electronets run off the same charger, so we can just keep leapfrogging. So the sheep just stay one ahead and the pigs follow right behind them, so that way we can just keep them advancing together. And we can rotate,
manage it that way.
Manage it that way.
So how's that balance been? Are you seeing that with, because you said you had 30 head of sheep, I believe?
Right. So we have 3 different flocks though. So that we've got a ram flock because we have a couple different rams. As the breeds we run are not easily acquired in Kentucky. So
I mean, to preface that, one of the sheep breeds we have that's our prominent sheep breed is a critically endangered one called Gulf Coast native sheep. So we've had to go far and wide to get breeding stock.
Right.
So if we can keep those on farm but be able to rotate them through, that's what we're trying to do.
Right. Yeah. So we've got the ram flock of between 3 and 5 rams. So we have that genetic diversity. Then we have the maidens, which are the ewe lambs from this year, last year that we're not breeding yet. And then we have our milking / breeding flock that we keep close to the house because we're milking them every day.
Sure.
So it's been our pig to sheep ratio is a little out of balance right now because we have 3 pigs right now and 30 sheep. So the pigs aren't quite able to keep up with everything. Although we did put a boar in like 2 months ago or 1 month ago. Sometime somewhere earlier than now. So we'll have more pigs soon is what I'm saying. So I'm curious once we have a better stocking ratio of pigs to sheep, how the pigs will manage that parasite load. Because when the pigs follow the one flock of sheep, that flock seems to do pretty well. But we have 2 other additional flocks we have to manage as well. So
not everyone gets a pig caravan.
Right. Yeah. And what an interesting control. I mean, obviously it's not intentional, but you have a control there to look at and say, okay, how much additional husbandry are we needing to do to the flock that isn't being followed versus the one that is?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's a neat little science experiment there. So it sounds like you've added this boar. Was that an AGH boar that you added?
Yes. So he's a pure AGH boar. Yeah. And we kind of lucked out because the lady who sold him to us, she'd worked with, like, he was born on her farm. She'd worked with him. So like, he's trained to keep his head away, although we still have to watch him, that kind of stuff. He's a proven boar.
Because he does have tusks.
Yeah.
And that was again kind of a hard sell on our part because it was like, we both watched Old Yeller growing up.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit worried about hog cut here. And so we went out again. We went and met him first and talked to his owner and that kind of stuff. And you can tell a lot about an animal's disposition just by being around them. Yeah. And so that kind of helped ease that and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he won us over.
Yeah, he won us over. So, and we just saw this as a way because people were asking us too. As soon as we got the pigs, okay, so A, when's the pig roast, and B, when
can we buy bacon
when
from
can we
you?
buy bacon?
Right,
I'm like,
right.
they only have so much.
Exactly.
So,
and so I was like, well, this is a slower growing breed. And it was funny because like a couple of people were like, oh, good, we want the slower growing breeds because they taste better and they've got more lard. And I was like,
okay.
All right. I didn't know I had this commodity food, but sure. Yes, I'll we can work this out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's kind of what the market will bear, and if you're going to be kind of low volume, but you've got the people that aren't looking to fill up a huge freezer, and they want some key cuts, or they see a lot of benefit in utilizing the lard. There's a lot of people like, well, I don't know what to do with lard, but you've got those people that are interested. Then it makes sense. But I just love the genesis of how pigs ended up on your farm and the benefits you're seeing.
We do too.
The benefits you're seeing beyond, like you said, bacon tastes great. Yeah, that's a win for everyone. But here's some of the other advantages we're seeing. So it sounds like with the size of the farm, the scale of everything, that this breed selection is ideal for you. That a cross between a Kuni and an AGH is going to give you smaller litters. It's going to give you, not 300, 400, 500 pound pigs, breeding pigs. It's going to give you this smaller scale stuff, but it's still going to do what you need it to do on the farm, and of course still provide bacon and maybe even additional either cells of the pigs themselves as feeders to somebody else, or cuts, halves, holes, those type of things. So really slick there. So so it sounds like obviously if your new AGH boar is in there, then you're waiting to see how he performs, and you could possibly have you're going to let him breed both the sow and the gilt, I assume.
Yeah, because I didn't realized, like with sheep, you want to wait, a year and a half to 2 years to breed them just for best results for the mother,
Sure.
long term. And so I was planning on doing that with our gilts. And fortunately, I was just, doing some candid research on the AGH breed. And what I found out was with that breed, you actually want to breed them within their first year or so, because it just makes them easier to breed long term.
Yeah.
So we were actually planning on not breeding the gilt. We were just going to breed the sow. And Kyle came home and I'm like, well, guess what? We're going to have 2 litters of piglets this year. And he was like, oh, okay. Which, again, our Sunday school class was like, more bacon for us. And I was like, y'all suckers better come over here and help.
Right.
But
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, when the piglets are on the ground, everybody's going to want to come over and play with them too. So that's the other.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So,
no,
go ahead, Cal.
And another thing too is with this breed cross that we have, the size wise, as you already mentioned, was really beneficial to us. But the second thing is the inputs.
Oh my gosh,
are what we needed, because we didn't have, we bought the milk cow partially because chicken feed was sinking us financially.
Yeah.
Right.
So we used the milk to kind of offset some of the feed costs. So we're like, I told Rachel when we got the pigs, I said, look, we can't spend a ton of money on pig feed.
Right.
And, to this date, we have never bought a bag of pig feed.
Well, that's amazing.
So they are, foraging. We feed them scraps. They get skim milk whenever milk's plentiful and that kind of stuff.
Or buttermilk. Because I do make our own butter. So,
but
and they love butcher day when we butcher chickens.
Oh yeah.
Like they are. And I mean, the fun thing was too, like we had this blight on our duck flock this last summer where ducks kept getting hit by cars for some stupid reason. And, we couldn't use that meat, but just as an experiment, we chucked one of those duck carcasses into the pigs, and within about 30 seconds, there was 2 feathers left.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, if we ever have a huge mess to clean up, we know who we're calling. So
exactly. Yeah. Or an unruly neighbor. There's all kinds of options there.
Exactly. I didn't want to say that, but since you did, it's okay. So
yeah. That's why they say. That's why the mafia. That's why the mafia always owned a pig lot somewhere. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, that's great. So I love that, the fact that because of, again, the setup and layout of your farm, the smaller scale, but this byproduct you're getting, these extras. And again, you're not in a rush to do quick turn production of your pigs. So it's not like you got to keep throwing the feed at them because we got to get these turned in 6 months or 8 months or 9 months. Because that's not their primary purpose on the farm. Their primary purpose is to graze and to help parasite load. So I love that. So that changes the whole dynamic of the pig operation and how that factors in to what you guys do. So now, obviously, if you're going to have 2 litters at farrow and then weaning time happens, do you think at some point you're going to need to do feed input, or do you think you're going to have enough byproduct to carry you for those litters?
I'm not sure. I know the lady we got these pigs from, she said she did give them some supplemental feed in pregnancy. So I do need to call her probably tomorrow and just ask what she did, because I do want to make sure that, while they're pregnant, they have the calories that they need to have healthy litters and whatnot. So, I do think we will give them some input for the breeding portion of it. But we haven't quite figured that out yet. So, we'll either just give them more, kitchen and milk stuff, or, I don't know how we would do this experiment since they're all in the same pen, but it would be interesting to see just feeding like one kitchen scraps and milk, and then another one actual, like a pig feed, and just compare the litters and see how they do. But I don't know how I do that right now, because we don't really have a way to separate them. So there'd be no way to control that experiment. So,
yeah. Cause I mean, as I mentioned to you, and I mentioned at HOA, we don't even have a farrowing shed yet. We are literally learning by doing at a moment.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's some definite things that we can expand out into this to learn more, but it's all a very big learning curve now, because we haven't even had them a full year.
Right.
We haven't had them a full year.
We haven't had them a full year yet.
Wow, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and back to the breed size, I mean, so Kyle works emergency services, so he's sometimes gone for 24 hours, and I'm a nice wee 5'6" woman. So if I have to get in to work the pigs for whatever reason or check them or whatnot, it's better for his peace of mind and mine that I can just jump in that paddock and work them. And if they get too ornery, I can just kick them on the snout and they'll go, oh, okay, and they back off. Versus, a larger breed, if I kicked them on the snout, they'd say, well, that's cute, and they just keep doing whatever they were doing. So again, it's not a production breed, but it works for what we're doing.
We're very pleased with it as a homestead breed.
Yeah.
So
and they're pretty chill. I mean, it's a pretty chill breed to begin with, as well, is my understanding.
Right, I haven't had to kick them on the nose very often.
No, I've never. So. I mean, heck, these we didn't mean to train them to a bucket, but they'll follow us across a whole pasture to move to a new spot without fence, just with a bucket. So that's been very helpful and beneficial on several occasions.
Yeah, they follow us better than the sheep do sometimes. The stinkers.
Yeah, they do.
So.
Yeah, and again, that's obviously a testament to the lady who had him before and really got him used to human interaction and keeping that up with anybody that you're going to keep. Mm-hmm. But again, I'd like that the options you have. So when you have two, hopefully you'll have two successful farrowings, and then you can at that point start to assess as you get to weaning time. It's like, how many do we keep? Do we want 5 pigs? Do we want to keep 10 pigs, or do we sell off feeders? And that, I know you guys, and we won't get into this too much, but I know you guys obviously market your product. So with what you do with sheep and the wool and stuff, so you know how to market, you know how to sell a product or service. So looking at that and saying, hey, we've got pigs that do a great job of following sheep, and with your contacts and what you have in the sheep community, then you could have a product there of providing piglets to people who don't necessarily want piglets, but they want that assistance with their sheep herd. And I think that's pretty cool.
Well, and it's, in our area, at least, it's interesting. On the small farm Facebook boards, there are requests for smaller breed pigs consistently. And then when any breed of pig goes on the Facebook, well, not that anyone would ever sell livestock on Facebook, because I know that's bad, but if they were, then they don't really last 5 minutes on the boards. They all sell out really quickly. So it again, I was just surprised because with a lot of different small homestead stock, the poor homesteader / farmers like, please take my prime breeding stock for a decent price. And with pigs, you don't have that problem in this area. So and then
but that's a very nice angle that you mentioned. I hadn't really even thought about that. I've thought about the pigs for meat, but having it amongst even the sheep community that they could use to help follow and that kind of stuff, that's a whole other marketing angle.
I think
$5 more per piglet.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, because our breed has been selectively managed to covet sheep manure.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, we started them on M&Ms and we moved up to the
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
No, that's great. So so what do you think? What if you think the future holds for you here? Let's say if things go well the way you want with farrowing, what's the next 3 years look like when it comes to how you integrate pigs into your flock and other things on the farm?
So we've actually kind of gotten into a quote herd share arrangement unquote with the piglets who aren't born yet, with a couple families from our church who they don't have homesteads. They're interested in homesteading. But again, apparently, like if you butcher a chicken, everyone's like, that's nice. Let us know when you're done. If you home butcher a sheep, everyone's like, oh, you're rock stars. But if you say you're going to home butcher a pig, everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's a hog roast. We want to be there. Will you teach us? Can we come? Can we help? And I'm like, it's the same thing as the other two. Sure. Yes. Come over.
Yes.
So we're using that to our advantage.
Try to foster that community up, do it like the old days of a community hog killing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's some kind of herd share arrangement where we raise their pig for them, and then they come butcher it come butcher day, after paying rent. Wink, wink. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that option, you know, with a couple of piglets that we'll keep to raise. And I mean, I would like to continue that kind of a model. I don't know, you know, I don't know how long term sustainable that is, but at least in the short long term, I see that being a decent option. For the piglets, we don't intend to sell as feeders, you know, and I do think there's a market for some feeder pigs as well. I just don't know how big a market that is. So I'm not sure, like, you know, do we want to do a once a year farrowing or a twice a year farrowing? Like we haven't quite seen the market trends to know how much we want to, you know, do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, our goal for what stays here on the farm permanently is kind of in the realm of what we're doing right now. A couple sows and a boar as our, and
then, you know, we need enough pigs to follow the 3 different flocks.
Yes.
So, and we're not quite sure, like, honestly, that's what drives the whole thing, is like, how many pigs are enough to follow the sheep and take care of the parasites, and then when does it become too many pigs? That's a whole separate management system. So, like, I think, so I mean, ironically, I think the amount of pigs to sheep is going to be the, you know, determining factor of, you know, are the pigs still just enough where they're taking care of parasites, or do we have too many and our stocking density needs to go down, you know, despite a market, just because I don't know if we have enough acres and inputs. Yeah. Acres and inputs to really enter into a hog enterprise at this point. So, you know, that, and again, that'll just kind of be an ongoing experiment, I guess, of observation and, you know, really good record keeping, which like every homesteader out there, we're so good at. We're always taking records. And for those of you new to homesteading, please know I am speaking totally tongue in cheek, because none of us are good at it.
So I'm a data geek, and I definitely see the value in that. And yeah, it is tough to record your own data and manage all of that, but yeah, I mean, I think there's exactly, and that'll be something you'll be able to determine. Obviously, there's variables on every farm, but how great would that be in 2, 3, 5 years where you guys have some pretty good evidence that says, hey, here's what we've seen, the reduction of parasite load in our flock because of this specific circumstance, and just, you know what, how, when, where type of thing when it comes to how the pigs follow. So that's pretty slick.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, very good.
We're brilliant. Didn't even try to be.
There you go. That's right. You know, you stumble into stuff, and that's the beauty of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I may have to touch base with you again right after you farrow and when castration's coming up, because that's always a good one. With Kyle being an emergency service, he could probably take that on without any problems, I assume.
You would think. You wouldn't you? Yeah. There are certain things that you'd be surprised those that serve and protect you are squeamish about and will just dive headfirst into.
When lambing season comes, I'm the one who scrubs up. We'll just put it that way.
But yeah, we're gonna figure stuff out. But I mean, there's several things where it's like, if I've done it before, I don't mind jumping into it. If I'm going solo and doing some alteration on an animal, I kind of want some guidance and some mentorship on what I'm doing.
You butchered a chicken from a book?
It took 5 hours to do one chicken. But anyway.
You want to castrate a pig from a book?
And the end result is the chicken's dead regardless. So yeah, that's
exactly.
You don't want a dead pig during castration.
In the middle, but it was the end result. Yes.
Yeah.
You get to that point, give us a shout. We'll come west. We'll help you do some castration there.
Hey, there you go.
We greatly appreciate it.
we might take you up on that, Troy. You better be careful.
Yeah.
Your boys may cut us out by the end of it.
How far are you guys from Lexington?
We are an hour due south, actually.
Oh, so you're down on 75 that direction.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. One of the major north-south routes out of Lexington. If you get on it and go south for an hour, you will be about 3 miles from our place.
Yeah, there's a Sonny's barbecue close by to you guys, I believe, down in that neck of the woods. So
there is.
I think so.
Yeah, there's about half an hour or so.
Yeah.
When we lived in Florida, that was a staple for us. So obviously, there's none there's none this far north, so we kind of know where they are. You know, Charlotte and Lake Norman area. So we know how far south we got to go.
Out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good. Well, I don't want to keep you guys all night. I really appreciate y'all coming on and sharing your experience here. But I do have to ask you. I ask everybody the same question, and get your all's perspective on this, since it's a little different. What in what you've seen, other than the fact that they eat sheep poop, what is your favorite? What is your favorite thing about raising pigs on pasture?
I am absolutely amazed at their natural God-given ability to just clean stuff up. As I said, our place is junky, it's overgrown. There is vines and brambles and brush that I cannot imagine cutting through in years of work. I mean, I've had people come out here with those sawtooth weed eaters and try to hack through it, and they do a little bit, but some it's so thick, some of it they can't get through.
Yeah.
And I turn the pigs into that same area, and in a matter of, let's say I keep them there a week or a week and a half or something like that, and all of a sudden it's like the ground just emerges, like stuff that I'd never have seen before is just coming forth because they have rooted and burrowed and moved stuff around and eaten a lot of the vegetation and stuff like that was seeming to be so impenetrable. That's been the most amazing thing to me, is just they're happy doing it. That's the biggest thing too. I mean, they
we'd be grumpy, they think it's great.
We call that pig treasure here, that because our farm was so trashed at one point that when they unearthed something, it's like, oh, look, more pig treasure. What is that? Oh, it's a pair of corduroy pants. Okay, cool.
There's been that too.
That's the scary part, is like there's some trash where I was like, I thought I'd never unearth that stuff, and they just bring it right out.
Here you go, we found this for you. It's a toy.
And it wasn't intentional. It's just over the winter we needed a place to put them, and so we just kind of surrounded the really overgrown area and said, okay, they could shelter in there, and on we go. And then all of a sudden spring came around, and they had just,
you could see
totally
grounds. It was like, wait a minute, when did that happen? So and for me, not to be, fangirly here, but like Joel Salatin says, like the pigness of the pigs is really fascinating for me to watch. Like we had them in this paddock where there was a bunch of old dead fescue, and I went up the next day and the pigs had cut the dead stalks and dragged it into a pile and made this big, huge bed in the middle of this paddock. And I was like, Kyle, when did you throw hay in here? He's like, I didn't throw any straw in here. When did you throw it in here? And I was like, we just looked at each other. We're like, the pigs did that? Like, that's really smart. So, ultimately the best thing about raising pigs is bacon, but we haven't harvested yet. So we don't know if that's true or not. So
exactly. The time will come very soon.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
It will get there.
Very good. Well, I really appreciate you all coming on the podcast, and Matt, what a great interview! You guys have such a good dynamic. It was fun hanging out with you here for this 40 or so minutes. So,
thank you.
So, if people want to find out more about your farm or reach out to you, how can they find you on the interwebs?
Well, we just published our website like literally the day before HOA.
Right. Yeah,
that's a requirement.
Yeah. So you can find us at www.whoopsydaisyfarm.com, or we are on Instagram at just Whoopsy Daisy Farm. I think that's the only, that's the handle. So
okay, and one thing I didn't ask you. So, give me the brief explanation of the name of the farm, because that's an interesting one.
Okay, so we're both Type A personalities. We try not to be, but we are. And so when we were talking about starting the homestead, I said to Kyle, okay, we're going to make mistakes, and we can't have a nervous breakdown every time we make a mistake. And so we need something to remind us to just not take ourselves seriously, take a deep breath, pull up our adult pants and keep going. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Christian singer, songwriter, rapper Toby Mac, but he's got a song called Catch a Fire.
Yeah.
And the chorus goes, whoopsie daisy, call me crazy, somebody got us catch a fire. And I was like, well, if we name the farm Whoopsie Daisy, like that's what we need to say when we mess up. And most of our family is calling us crazy, but we want the country to catch the fire of homesteading. Yeah. So Whoopsie Daisy Farm it is.
It's a double meaning. There you go.
Yeah.
I like it. Very cerebral.
Thank you. Right. I tend to overthink everything.
Yeah. So I mean, we just kind of did it going, okay, we're going to mess up a lot, so let's just name it this. and everybody loves it. I mean,
yeah, I didn't
awesome.
I didn't mean for it to be this great marketing tool, but everyone's like, oh, whoopsie daisy. And there was this Austrian couple at HOA, and they were like, Whoopsie Daisy Farm, Whoopsie Daisy Farm. We love your name, Whoopsie Daisy Farm. And I'm like, could you just like say that into a recorder so I can play it when I'm feeling discouraged?
Exactly.
So.
Has such a better flavor. Yeah, and I guess
It
looking at that constant, that repeated mistake thing. I guess there's all kinds of other options you could have gone with that would have been less Christian. You know, son of a blank farm, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I was a good Christian homeschool graduate woman when we got the farm, and after the third duck clutch, I have been known to cuss like a sailor in the field sometimes.
Yeah, I think sometimes my pigs think I have Tourette's. So yeah.
Yeah.
Especially on loading day.
That's one of our favorite YouTube videos that you have, is when you're talking about like the poopkins or something like that.
Oh,
and
yeah,
one of the pigs started gnawing on your side by side, and you've got this like very sage, wise Troy is sharing about the poopkins, and then you just turn around and you're like, stop eating my side by side, you jerks.
Oh,
and we watch that over and over and just die laughing, because we're like, it's our people, they understand.
Yes. Yeah. There's always somebody around you, and it's usually an animal trying to make you look foolish. So
Yeah.
Good stuff.
They keep you humble.
Yep. All right. Well, Kyle and Rachel, man, I sure appreciate you coming on. God bless you and the efforts you're doing down there. And we'll have to get you back on when we're ready to digest some of this data and present that some more.
That'd be great.
Sounds great.
Well, thanks for having us, Troy. It was a pleasure for me talking to you in person for the first time, but you got to talk to him at HOA. So.
I did.
Good deal. Well,
so thank you.
Yeah, Lord willing, we'll be there next year, so we'll definitely have to make sure we run into one another.
Same. Yeah, sounds great.
All right. Well, I pray y'all have a great week. Take care.
Well, I really appreciate Kyle and Rachel coming on. Great conversation. Like I said, they really carried the conversation for me. And, it's interesting, some of the things that Rachel discussed there. I do want to follow back up with them in a while and just see if they've been able to explore more of this parasite control. I know this, we're dealing with pastured pigs, but I know many of us, and I highly recommend this if you're a monoculture, if you're only one species focused farm, that's fine, but there's a lot of value in being multi-species. But so I found that very interesting. I'm not that familiar with sheep, don't really get around them much. I know they're fuzzy. That's about it. But so really good stuff, and I like what they're doing there, and utilizing a breed that is, somewhat contentious. Some of you guys really get your panties in a twist when we talk about the AGHs or the Kuni. So I think it's neat to see how they're using this breed on their farm, and it's working out for them. So it's one of those to each their own, right? So if that breed works for you, go for it. But we are we're going to wrap up now, and again look forward to other topics we have coming up. Really excited to get into those. If you want to communicate with me, you know how to do it. Troy@redtoolhouse.com, or go to our Facebook group, The Pastured Pig, which is growing daily, and good conversation going on there. And you can just drop me a note that way. That may be the easiest way to communicate and get some other input from other members as well. All right, well, I pray everyone have a great week. And if you're in a temperate zone, I pray you enjoy this beautiful time of year. Take care. One quick note before I go away. I realized that my outro bumper is incorrect because the call to action it doesn't include the new website. So the lady that did my outro, she I may be able to get her to do it again, but she's just so darn expensive. So, those who know, it's my wife, but I've edited it. So just a little bonus here. Listen to this outro and see if my edit is sufficient, if you notice the difference, or if I need to actually get Kelly to record a new outro for me.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast, or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes, visit
thepasturedpig.com.